is happening in the country and beyond. And on May the 3rd this year, President William Ruto, live from State House, announced a new university funding model, of course, that will take care of universities and also TVETs. But just in a nutshell, is that those students who opt to join private university will not be funded by the government, while the vulnerable will be having no coin to pay, as the government will take care of that. Of course, there are the vulnerable who will also be assisted. That is the discussion that we will be having here. I have a panel of experts, but before we introduce the panel of experts, let's first of all hear what the president had to say live from State House, Nairobi.
To develop a new funding model to address the financial challenges facing higher education. This new funding model does not increase university fees. Let me repeat that. This new funding model does not increase university fees. Universities and TVETs will no longer receive, under the new funding model, block funding in form of grants based on differentiated unit costs. The government has resolved that university funding will henceforth be student-centered.
Students will be clustered into three categories: needy students, the less needy, and the able students.
The funding shall be through government scholarships and loans. For the first time, students whose households are at the bottom of the pyramid shall enjoy equal opportunity in accessing university and TVET education.
Well, that's just an extract of what the president had to say when he announced the new higher education funding system that will be adopted beginning this year, actually this financial year 2023-2024. And in a nutshell, it was a long speech, but some of the things that the president also said that is that so some household will be paying 20% of the cost. There will be household who will be paying 7% of the cost. That is the discussion that we will be delving into. My name is Njue, and Susan Thuku is our sign language interpreter. And you can weigh in on this live conversation via all our social media networks as we are live. Now, straight to the discussion, allow me to first of all introduce my panelists. There are both distinguished scholars. Beginning from my immediate left, we have Dr. Mark Matunga. Dr. Mark Matunga is an educationist and also the president and the CEO of Africa Center for Advanced Technology. Karibu sana, daktari.
Asante sana.
And just next to him, we have Dr. Vincent Gaido. Dr. Vincent Gaido is the Secretary General of the National Association of Private Universities in Kenya. Karibu sana, Doc.
Asante sana.
Gentlemen, I would like first of all you to weigh in on, I'm quite sure you are following each and every word the president had to say on May the 3rd, and I would like you to weigh in on that, beginning with you, Daktari.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me here and engaging in this very, very important topic.
Welcome.
Maybe the one word I've picked, the one phrase,
yes,
which we need really to seek interpretation, is a question of equal opportunity. The president said that with this new model, every child, every Kenyan will have equal opportunity. Equal opportunity should not be seen to be discriminative. Equal opportunity should be open to all. And people should be given the opportunity to choose where they want to seek the education. The biggest problem we may have is to lock people to particular line of thinking and area of seeking higher education. When, you know, what has emerged from the whole discussion is that going forward, the private universities are seen as pariahs, as seen as the unwanted, that they shall not be considered in placing students. We have no problem with that. But we are saying, let students be given the opportunity to seek education in the institution they feel will give them the opportunity to unlock themselves.
You do feel that indeed it's not quite equal opportunity as it is?
They are locked.
All right, we will be discussing. They are locked. You tell us, we will unlock that. Next to Dr. we have another distinguished scholar as well. I would like you to pick your mind on what the president said and what were your take home in his speech.
Building on Vincent's comment, he picked a line from the president. I'll also pick one from the president, and that is no child left behind. That to me is key and important, and I think that this is transformational. This is great. Of course, the universities feel a bit relieved. This is one thing that I've been preaching about for several years, that funding needs to be student-based, student-centered, that you actually fund the students. You don't fund the university, you don't fund the block, you don't fund an idea. You are actually, our money is going to actually fund an individual. And that individual has a pathway that they've chosen that they want to actually be able to pursue, whether in private and in public universities. But then this gives us an opportunity, especially in higher education, for even private universities to create scholarships and fight for. If I was a student, and I'm hoping that I can even get younger and go back to school. If I was a student, I want to see Strathmore fighting for my space in their school. In Nairobi University saying that, hey, Mark Matunga, we have a chance for you here. We're offering you this much scholarship from government. And Strathmore will say, no, you come. We're offering you full scholarship. That is the equal opportunity that he's talking about. So that as a student, I have the money and I choose where I want to go and which course that I want to pursue because I qualify for it.
Wow, that's quite an interesting way of looking at it. And still, let's speak it from where Mark has left it. Being, you come from the National Association of Private Universities. The president did note that going forward, students who join private university will not be eligible for any government funding. As an association that caters for private universities, do you feel left out?
I'll say no.
Why is that?
Because before 2016, private universities never had any government-sponsored students. In fact, from 2016, that is when a policy statement was made. And henceforth, the Kenya Universities and Colleges Central Placement Service started placing government-sponsored students in private universities. Maybe we could ask ourselves, why did the government then see it wise to place students in private universities? Maybe it was a question of giving the government-sponsored students an opportunity to select where they want to study, because placement was not coerced. COOPs would discuss with the universities would declare the opportunities they have in the various programs and the spaces they have in the various programs for government-sponsored students. And this would be put in the portal. And government-sponsored students would select to go to those universities. It was not coerced, like it has been thought. The government would then support these students with tuition fee based on a capped budget. In Parliament, they came up with a capped budget that all government-sponsored students would be financed with this amount of money, regardless of the number of students who are in government-sponsored or in private universities. That was from 2016. Previously, private universities used to market themselves, compete, and students would choose to go to their institutions. Therefore, what we are simply going back to where we came from. And I would say this, there is no single private university that was formed with the statement that among its revenue sources is government money. Private universities declare how they are going to fund the universities they want to establish, which is from the tuition fee, where students who come in pay, from the sponsors, from grants, from other sources, but no mention of government sources. So it is a government that came to us because we offer what the government felt that, but it was also saving for government, because government doesn't pay for the teachers in universities, in private universities. Government doesn't pay for water, for electricity, for the infrastructure. It is a big saving. In fact, if the treasury was to speak the truth, they would say, let's have more in private universities.
So as private university, you're very comfortable with the new arrangement now?
We are saying we are where we belong, offering alternative for students to choose. And it's a high time now. Universities know why they establish themselves. Why? They must have quality, they must have relevance, they must be affordable, and they must be attractive. It is a high time for universities to know their niche. Why do they exist? And at the same time, you're also saying, let the government free the students. Let the governments free the students to go to the universities they would wish to go to. You don't have to lock them. There are many universities, there are many scholarships, there are many government-sponsored students in scholarships through ministry and elsewhere who are studying abroad. They seem not to have a problem sponsoring students, supporting students studying abroad. But they seem to have a problem supporting their students studying locally. So we're saying we are offering an opportunity for students. But at the end of the day, even if they are not funded, we shall remain to offer an alternative for the students who want, one, to experience what private sector offers. Just like, look at health, look at the hospitals. Those who are able, and even government money flows in private hospitals, but they don't want government money to flow in private universities.
All right. Doc, I pick it from where Dr. Gaida has left it. If I'm a student, you cannot compare private and public universities in some aspects. In terms of a practical example, there are some resources that universities, a case in point, the USIU, Daystar, have better than public universities. What happens to a student who would want to pursue a degree program that a university like Daystar or USIU offers, but the resources that the same course is given in another university are quite different? Now, if this student decides to move from the public university to the private university, you'll have now, the government will say now you stand on your own. But that is disadvantaging this student because he will not have exactly what he wanted.
Well, I mean, you can't have your cake and eat it. But let me first of all appreciate and thank the government for this transformative move. At least it's a step in the right direction, or many steps in the right direction. We must appreciate the dynamics of private versus public education in Kenya, all the way from kindergarten. It's not just featuring at the higher education level. Remember, there was a huge move or exodus of students, Kenyan students, from public universities to private universities. In terms of transition from high school, they preferred, and part of the reason they preferred public universities at the time, private universities at the time, was because of unpredictability public universities. You didn't know that when you were going to graduate. You didn't know when you're going to be in session. You didn't know when there would be a strike and you'd be sent home for an indefinite period of time. And then also came in the aspect of quality. But we must also acknowledge the fact that not known to many Kenyans that public universities are equipped adequately. The problem we have with Kenya is kind of packaging the product and offering. I mean, if you're talking of engineering, where would you go apart from Nairobi University? When you're talking of medicine at the time and even still now, or dentistry, where would you want to go apart from Nairobi University or any or other public universities as well? So that issue of quality definitely then needs to be addressed, and now it is going to actually play up from the university side of things. Both public university and private universities are going to compete, and I'll answer your question, I'll come to your question, are going to compete for this same student to want to bring them, because your funding is going to be based on the number of students that you have and the type of courses that you actually offer. And so the more students you have, the more better courses, attractive courses you have, the better. And so the student will not be disadvantaged in this case, because all these institutions will want to actually fight to offer the best. Will want to actually be able to provide the best opportunity for every student, so that they know that this is a good student. What I need to do is to actually be able to provide more funding for this person. And so private universities will actually have to build their endowment funds to swell wide enough to be able to bring in more students. And so you'll choose whether you want to go to University of Nairobi or Moi University or Kenyatta University that offers you this percentage, 53% if you are, in terms of grant, or and 40% in terms of loan, and then you have to actually patch in with the other. Vis-a-vis Nazarene University or USIU or Daystar, that offers you almost, similar. Of course, the cost is slightly higher, but then they're saying that, hey, you're coming on full scholarship. And you have a plate full of institutions to actually pick from. And this time round, the institutions will have to actually improve on the product they're offering. Quality education.
All right.
That I will choose from, because the funding will be there, and that's what's happening the world over. That's what's happening in the Western world.
And actually, a lot of Kenyans are quite positive regarding what the president said. But in developed countries, this is something that they did years and years back. But we're going to discuss that. Let's first of all cross over to Maseno University. My colleague Wycliffe Okeche is currently on standby to give us a feel, because it's also back to school and back to university as well. Wycliffe?
Well, a very good morning to you, Bentro Njue, back in Nairobi. We are, of course, coming to you live from the lakeside city of Kisumu, right within the city center here. It is a wonderful topic of discussion right there in studio, and we already know that the government has already announced a new model, funding model for the universities or the institutions of higher learning, and we know that the government has now increased the capitation to universities from the current 54 billion shillings to by about 30. That brings it to about 80.6 billion shillings in the next financial year, or rather for the next academic year. And this is a development that has elicited quite a number of reactions from parents, from students, from the education sector here. And here in Kisumu, I'm going to be joined by one of the students here in Maseno University here, and also on set I will be having a parent to talk to us, or rather share with us their perspectives on this development. Starting with a student here, you may want to tell us your name, which year are you at Maseno University, and the government has announced a whole diversion or the tact of funding institutions of higher learning. What is your opinion of it? Start by introducing yourself. I'll hold it for you.
Okay, my name's Kedogo Hilary. I'm a student at University of Maseno, taking bachelor in degree, business administration. My opinion on the new funding model that has been introduced, I think it's a great move by the government to help fund those. I think the model has been divided into three parts. That's the vulnerable, the less vulnerable, and the able ones. I think this is a great move that will help those students who are from the less vulnerable, those students who are vulnerable, to reach their goals or to reach their potential. Because when you find they join the university, some find that there's some things that you have to have some funds to be able to move on. And with this new funding model, I think there will be some increase, and those parents who are not able to pay for their children, for the students who join the universities, now will be able to bring the children to the universities, and this will help for the students to reach their potential. I think that's what I can say on that new move by the government.
And do you think now the government says that it is shifting from depositing the funds to the university accounts, and now the funds will be deposited, will be channeled through the students themselves? Do you think the comrades, as we may call them, do you think they have that discipline to manage these funds carefully and be able to pay it as needed to the school's accounts?
Yeah, that one now depends on somebody himself. The some who are that self-directed, they will pay. But you find others with such amount of funds in the account, some will just go to, they call it shere, and waste it all. So I think the move also is okay, because you find when you are also living in the university, you are not, there's some things like, I mean, naweza tumia Kiswahili kidogo. Mtu anaishi kando, na ukiishi kando unahitaji fedha za kufanya maybe vitu kwa nyumba, unahitaji kuishi kula na nini, na unapata asipopata zinatoka nyumbani atalemewa. So hiyo pesa ikuja kwake, anajua mwenyewe pia vile mwenyewe anagawa na ingine inaenda shule. Cha muhimu ni kusema serikali imefanya vizuri sana kufanya hivyo, na inapotuma kwa mwanafunzi, ni sisi wanafunzi wenyewe as comrades, the way you referred to us, to also be self-driven and pay the money to the school so that we can be able to finish our studies. Yeah.
Given the lifestyles of comrades, especially in campuses, in the main campuses, what ushauri wako unaweza kuwa ni vipi kwa wale watakuwa wanajiunga na chuo kikuu sasa?
Wale ambao wanakuja kujiunga, the new model starts with them. So wanapokuja university, yeah, there is some challenges. And even with the new model and the amount coming in, they need to have that self-drive by themselves. They need to know why they are coming to universities, and they need to aim for the goals that brought them to the universities. Because you can be funded, but without that self-drive, you won't be able to finish the 4 years in university. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Hilary Kidogo. Troy, like I mentioned, I also have a parent. That is from the student perspective. And now about from the parent perspective, with me is Chris Owala also to share with us as a parent, what does this new model actually mean to the parent? Chris, we know that the government says it will be funding students. Now the new funding focuses on students. It will be funding students to a tune of 93% in form of loans and also scholarships. And now that leaves the remaining 7% to be footed by the students' households. What do you think this means for the parent?
Thanks a lot. I think, to me, the model is not the issue. The critical issue is the effectiveness. You know, you can change the name, but you have not changed the framework. You are not doing anything that is different from the abnormality that have been happening. Because if the university's funding has been a problem, I don't think by just changing a name will be in any way support vulnerable children from vulnerable families. Because remember, before there was this boom which used to be in the university, and the booms used to come to the student account, and the government used to get their share. But if you look at over the time, the government has not invested well in the universities, public universities. Universities don't do research. There's no money for research. The university has no proper infrastructure. You realize the universities they don't even have hostels. A lot of children are living in the estates, and as such, children cannot study well. The purpose of the university is lost in Kenya, and that's why I was saying, if this new model if they couldn't work on sealing the hole that were there in the help, where it was highly corrupt, then they are changing their name and saying, we will be supporting vulnerable. And you know very well in this country, how you define vulnerable children differ from person to person, because it depends on your interest. Remember, even bursary, people have been losing bursary, they needy children. Even the current way of bursary at CDF level, at county level, we say we are having the needy and bright. But if you look at it well, the needy and bright never get it. Because it's about the information, it's about the people who are in power, it's about the people who are in decision-making table. So to me, I'm more worried if we have failed to deal with the corruption in the help, and mere fact that you have changed the name, the parents should not expect any good thing.
Is it really a change of name, really? Because we know that in the past, in the model that is now being phased out, the government used to spend about 120,000 per student in every financial year. But then now that money is not going to be deposited to the school's account. This is going to given to the student rather. And now that means the buck will stop with the universities to declare and actually to publicize their courses. Now that will determine, will guide the student in paying this amount. Is it really a change of name or the model itself?
You see, the model we are changing, it's not far, it's not departing much from what has been happening, because help also come per student. But if you do medicine, the cost is different. If you do other, you pay different costs. So the issue is, these are the ones they are saying that they are increasing funding to university from 54 billion to 84 billion. Which is okay, the increase in the location. But I think the more critical thing is, they are saying that they are now not going to fund private universities. And I think that's where the focus should be, because private universities are there to augment what the government cannot offer. Private universities are also Kenyan children. So when you say you are not funding private university, and I think what we need to pay much attention to, the needs do change. If you are needed today, it doesn't mean you are needed tomorrow. If you are well-to-do today, you are not. There's no guarantee that tomorrow you will be needy. So the framework should be in a way that at what level will they be doing assessment and to see whether the situation of this child has changed, or you are saying once you are needy, you continue. Once you are not needy, we leave you out completely. Still, it's going to bring discrimination, because today my father is working. Tomorrow my father got an accident. Doesn't mean now I don't need to get university funding because yesterday I was needy. I was not needy. So I think it requires a well-thought framework. It does not require political rhetorics. It requires a very deep thinking with the government. It requires a policy framework, and require, before you launch a model, please engage the people. Engage the stakeholders. Let's get everybody's view. Then you validate it. Then you say, it's Kenyan, this is the best model we can buy.
And if I may just cut you, you see, this decision was arrived at after the Presidential Working Group on Education Reforms in the country recommended this model to the president. Does it mean the people were not consulted, the relevant stakeholders?
If they recommended the model, they could have come back with the model to the people. Article 1 is very clear, because we came, we got in this, then you come back to validate that this is what we have found out, is it true? But you can't just say now we move with it without looking at the nitty-gritty, because if you don't address the attrition issues, if you don't address status that changes from time to time, then you risk that you see many children will still miss education, university education, and you still see who will determine a vulnerable child. You and me knows, even when you document vulnerable families in this place, you still get well-to-do people in the list. So the bigger issue is efficiency, and as you address the issue of efficiency, you address the issue of corruption in the education sector, so that the actual needy children, if this model is to work well, there could be a way of identifying those needy children. So at what level are you identifying them? And which process are you using to identify them? And when they get, well, if their family status improves, do you remove them from the list? Because that must be defined. Then the people who are well-to-do, if they lose their resources because of their calamity or change of lifestyle, how do you bring them back to the list so that they can also don't drop?
So, from your perspective, what do you think would be the best way to address the cash crunch that has befell so many public universities in the country, other than changing the model?
You know, the universities, to me, there are too many. Some of them they have opened a lot of constituent colleges which are not necessary, stressing the staff, and they don't have infrastructure. And when you have resources goes deeper to administration. And now the bigger issue like libraries, like infrastructure, like the lecturers are not hired. So the university must first relook and restructure whether you need 10 campuses, whether you need 4 campuses. Then the university each university must be specialized in their course, as opposed to you get a university doing everything and they're not specialized on it.
All right. When the president announced this new model, he said that there's going to be a motivation to public universities actually to source their own funding and for infrastructure and all that. What do you think?
You know, university must also source their funding, but the government cannot run away from supporting universities, because universities are created by the state, is an arm of the government. So if the government want to throw university under the bus, it's not proper. You remember, the university need senior lecturers, the lecturers and other graduate fellows need to be supported to do research. But if there's no research in the university, if the government does not give money for research, then how can a country grow? The government must support research in the university. The government must make sure there's a model for funding research. And the university don't close at 5 because there's no money for research. Yes.
Thank you so much, Chris Owala. Troy, those are some of the perspectives from Kisumu. You've heard that right from the parent, that is Chris Owala, and also from the student who has just left, saying that for the students, he says that this model is really suffices for the students here, but then for the parents, he says that now a new model actually for funding, specifically funding research in the institutions of higher learning need to be revised. And also this new model that has been announced must be looked into keenly, actually, to ensure that those that it intends to promote, or rather those it intends to benefit, actually get the actual benefit from it. Well, Troy, that is the perspectives from Kisumu here, and allow me to hand it back to you in studio to continue that wonderful interview in studio. Back to you, Troy.
Thank you, Wycliffe Okech, live from the Maseno University. There he has engaged a student and also a parent. Mixed reactions there and sentiments from that parent. And talking about the placement, KUPS actually announced that all universities should disclose costs, should disclose cost duration. And I have this, thanks Doc for this. I'm looking at some of the courses and how the government will be paying. If I go to the self, forget the government. A practical example, a course like medicine, which is going for 720,000 per year, government at 53% is doing a 381,000. HELB will do 288. Self, the 7% that we had talked about 25,000 shillings. The parents there was quite distraught in terms of how the figures are being arrived at, and he's not he has no conviction that this exactly is happening the way it should. He has some good things to talk about the statement the president made, looking at this cost. And a practical example, the doctor. And after the course, you find these doctors are always going for greener pastures, because either they are not employed or the pay is too little.
We need to restructure our psychology or philosophy of investment. Mm-hmm. If we are investing 720,000 per year for a medical student to become a doctor, we then need to actually look at what is the ROI. And ROI basically means that, you know, we're putting in this money so that this doctor can provide this service to the citizen, because the money that is being put here is our money. It's Kenyans' money, citizens' money. And I think then it behooves the government, much as I congratulate the government for actually this step in the right direction, it behooves the government to actually, you know, also go to the other end of the stick and review what we're doing with the return on investment. We're putting in this much, what are we getting? And if you look at the tabulation, actually, this is a very friendly approach, because then that means that as a vulnerable child, I then can afford to actually go to medical school. And also pay for it if you're looking at all of this. But you know, the parent there touched on a number of things, but one of the things that I know I want to just guide him on. This is an outcome of a task force that is in place. And the task force has been going around. Maybe he was not consulted personally, but when these things are put on the newspaper and on the website, it then behooves you to actually go and give your ideas. The issue of corruption is not for us to actually discuss here. It's in every sector. I think that we leave for the other institutions to actually basically deal with. All we are saying right now is that this is a step in the right direction. I think it is definitely a good thing. And you'll realize that funding these courses is quite pricey. Nairobi University Dental School, I don't know which other university has dental school, it has a limited number. You can only take so many. I don't think that do they take more than 20 or more than 10 per year? They really can't, because it's very expensive to train a dentist, the equipment that you need and all of that kind of stuff that you need. And so you'll find that, the school, the universities will actually receive this money and invest in actually improving the quality of what actually needs to happen. But I want to make this comment as well, being a technology evangelist, and I'm offering this advice for free. The universities don't have to pay me. Use technology.
Use technology.
Simple.
Looking at these figures and what actually later happens, and especially for the medical students, it's actually something that Kenya needs to really relook at, looking at the cost that it take all the money. Almost, this is what, times 6 is what, about almost 6 million shillings. And the doctors later on, no jobs, later on poor pay, always always in solidarity, in unions, always in strikes. But away from that, there's another pertinent issue that came about, the debts that we have in the university. 60 billion in debts. Yes, there are some public university who have devised their own means of additional income. Case in point, Egerton and also Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. Is this the way to go? Because at the end of the day, if they have a 60 billion debt, if it's cleared by the government, there's no sure guarantee that they will not accrue another debt. Doc?
Maybe we need to ask ourselves, how did they get there? How do you get there? It's an issue of also the question of financial management. What happened? And universities have always known that other than teaching, research is an important aspect, and grant. And it is important, therefore, to bring on board very sound management. This is public money. Very sound management of these resources that are endowed and given to these stewards. And maybe we need to ask ourselves, should somebody answer a question? Should somebody be put to the defense and tell us what happened? Because the risk of bailing them out and getting back there, we must also ask, do we have proper managers? Maybe we need to ask ourselves. Of course, we are in that space. We need to ask ourselves, are we managing universities properly? Do we need to rethink? Of course, my seniors would not be happy with me if I say, must we also ask the competencies of our professors in managing? You could be a professor in your area of specialization, but you are not necessarily a super manager of this aspect. We can have our professors running the academia, but the business wing of the universities, we need to rethink them. I think that could be important. Maybe also to respond to what was coming from Aseno. I would agree with the parent. These vulnerable people, we must have a very foolproof criteria of identifying the vulnerable. 2, we must give the vulnerable space. We don't fund them and bottle them. If we want them to experience what they wish, Let us open the space. We are not saying that you give the student, because it is a student-based. Let the student also choose where to study. In fact, the current model of government placement of private public students in private university is an example of student-centered, because what the student used to get is tuition. And I would wish to correct this analogy, this mistake, misinterpretation, that private universities were being funded. You see, when you talk about funding, it means you're giving a certain amount of money even for capital investment.
More or less like capitation.
Yes. There was purely no funding. And I think we have enough universities where some of the people should go and learn to interpret this, that there was no funding per se. It was tuition fee. Students were paid for kwenda shule.
Not funded.
Not funded. In fact, any student who left, who transferred from public university to private university received less tuition. Students, the money never followed the student. But now with this model, the money is following the student. But they're saying, let the student go with his money to whichever university he feels, he will get return. And maybe I need to correct my colleague. As we think about the older brothers, University of Nairobi and others, we also need to remember we have newer, younger universities which are offering opportunities. In fact, even in terms of medical, for example, a year ago, the East African Board of Medical Practitioners came and did inspection. And surprisingly, Mount Kenya University emerged #1, best university in offering medical. So you're saying, when we lock ourselves to the past, we may miss the boat. We need to understand that we also have other institutions. Let the people know. Finally, yesterday was the deadline for all universities to submit their fee, their program and fee. And therefore it means students will have the knowledge, parents will have the knowledge, the government will have the knowledge of the cost of training a student in a university A or B. Maybe I should have said this. We should not just train for the sake of training. We should have a clear academia industrial linkage. Because if we train and you're not expanding the economy, we shall continue this problem of unemployment. We should engage especially KEPSA, the Kenya Private Sector Alliance. This is where the industry is. What do they want? What manpower do they want? And as we challenge them, let also have the private sector engaging with, or rather the industry engaging with academia, so that programs are addressing to their need. And the academia are helping to solve industry problems. And that way, by the time the student leaves the university, we will not have a problem of people flying out to seek greener pastures.
All right. Dr. Mark, we've covered a lot of universities, but TVETs as well. Over 170,000 students are expected to join universities, and 140,000+ are expected to join TVETs. And I'm looking at the categories of student as government. Looking at the TVETs, the 7% that the university are contributing for the TVET is about 20%. And the government is talking about affordable housing. We'll need a lot of masons, a lot of plumbers, a lot of technicians. I think this should have been a little bit lower, so that to encourage a lot of students, because the biggest chunk of those who do the national examination are those that do not get the university entry grade.
You built your question from Vincent's comment of matching training to matching skills to the industry needs. And the level of learning that actually provides that hands-on is TVET. I was fortunate enough last week. I was in Canada engaging with TVET institutions. Canada has one of the most improved or most developed TVET engagement. You saw that the Minister for, I think, Foreign Affairs, Canada was here talking to the President about shipping Kenyans, skilled Kenyans, to Canada to actually work from the TVET sector. You saw the Chancellor of Germany coming to have the similar conversations with our President. So where do we have jobs globally? We have skills, jobs for skills. And that is where in the TVET sector, TVET basically goes directly into the skills arena. But when you talk about the delta in terms of the cost, that is largely because TVET, in the TVET institution, you pay slightly lower amounts. So even in percentages, it can be 30% of 100 shillings, as opposed to 30%, as opposed to 10% of 1,000 shillings. So that the difference is okay at that level. But it's extremely important, and this is why, I know that we're not talking about CBC or CB here, this is why competency-based education is crucial. We need to be training. What are we training for? We need to be training for the services that the people need. That is what we call the industry. What you need from a health point of view, what you currently need from food security point of view, what you actually need in your house as the plumbing technology and knowledge. And so it is crucial. And I appreciate the fact that as a country, we did not forget about TVET in this whole story. And we also need to improve the number of TVET institutions in the private sector wing as well. They are there. We don't talk much about them, but they are there, and that to me is crucial. And I commend government for also engaging and improving on the TVET sector. Actually, one of the things that's happening in Canada now, even if you are trained here to master's and PhD level, and you're going for a job in Canada, you actually go to a TVET institution to be skilled for that particular service or that particular job. And that is really what's happening. So you'll see a lot of our graduates who have come from universities actually enrolling for this program that the President was talking about with the Canadians and the Germans. And that is where we're heading. And that's one thing that I really appreciate. But the cost difference there is okay. The percentage in the TVET could be slightly higher in terms of individual contribution, but because the cost, the total cost of going through a TVET training is much lower. And that's why also government has put in a lot of investments originating from grants and also from budget. So you'll find that there are a lot of TVET institutions that are super well equipped. This time round, they're going to put most of that equipment to actual use.
I still want you to weigh in on TVETs, because the government said that it's going to be allocating an additional 5 billion for TVETs. I believe we should have maybe looked at that, because looking at what the government is planning, the cottage industries, the affordable housing schemes, these are the people that we need. The TVET guys are the people that we really need. We could have done a little bit better than that. What do you think?
Of course, we will never have enough. If you look at most constructions that are happening, most of the fundis have no papers. They can't show you. But they have the skills. We need to also think about prior learning. How do we make sure that they have a certain proof of competence so that they can also negotiate better when the Chinese come around? You'll have our fundis around, but they have nothing to show in terms of certification. That should work. But also, I agree with you, we need to put a lot of resources in the TVET, because you can imagine, out of almost a million people, a million kids who did Form 4, only 173 are going to the university. Majority, unless they are taken care of, they'll fall through the cracks. And it will be a danger. They'll just waste. So we need to come up with ways of ensuring that, like now, if you look at the University Act, it talks about a university in every county. That we may need to rethink. We need to have resources to ensure that we have properly equipped and facilitated and man-powered TVET institutions in every county. Because every county, in as far as I know and I can imagine as a geographer, is a unique ecosystem. And it may require certain competencies to manage it. For example, look at the coastal region. The coastal region is different from the highland region. And therefore, we may need some certain competencies. And therefore, TVETs would be the best. I agree. I also congratulate the government for putting in some more. But we can say, going forward, we need to ask ourselves, is it enough? Because we need to take care of the majority. Otherwise, we'll have a lot of people wasting. Yeah.
And the bursaries, of course, the president said that funding will be through government scholarship, loans, and bursaries. And we have seen a lot of issues when it comes to MPs and bursaries. We are hoping that is not going to be transpiring then. And the household explained that only 7% of the cost of university education. This is a first in the region. Another thing that he said that those joining TVETs will receive government scholarship of up to a maximum of 50% or 30% in loans. Households will pay 20%. According to the model, the less needy students joining university will be funded through government scholarship of up to a maximum of 38% the cost of the program and 55% in form of loans. There will be an issue that could emerge, and it has been discussed by pundits, that when it comes to identifying those, the vulnerable, the needy, and the less needy, could be a challenge.
It is a challenge and could be a challenge, but it shouldn't be. Because the children are known at the primary school level. They are known where they go to school and which families from where they come. So that is fairly known. And in a situation whereby we are actually keeping, and we're being honest with ourselves, and we're keeping the right data. And that's why I agreed with the parent there, where we're keeping the right data of that student, and we're able to actually track that student for 3 years in pre-primary and for 8 years in primary school. You already know if situations change, even here at KBC, you're all able staff. If your situation changes or your health situation changes, then you're actually moved to benefit from a disability employee if that changes. But that is because your employer has your data. We have the data of these students, of these pupils, from when they are in kindergarten. We know huyu ni mtoto wa nani, baba yake yuko, mama yake alikufa, nini what happened. At minimum, the chief has that data. If we were just being honest with ourselves, let's not basically apply our own warped approach to social support to basically deny an opportunity that really should be there. We as Kenyans, we are the ones who actually change our thoughts and change our construct, because we know. I know that is Troy, mtoto wa nani. You know, you get to a point whereby, oh, baba yake amekufa. That item is recorded. You know, you have the birth certificate, death certificate, burial certificate, and all of that. And your social circumstances has changed. Why is it so difficult to actually also that change to trigger what benefits you're actually able to access? So in my view, it is the psychology of Kenyans that need to change. And even especially those administrators, and even at the university level, we, and the risk we're going to run to, Vincent and Troy, the risk we're going to run into now, because the universities want to compete, they might very easily compromise the quality of education. Because a lot of them are going to spend money and tell lecturers that, hey, you know what, part of your performance contract, you have to bring in so much research money so that we can actually have this much money available to give scholarships and things like that. So they might go on money hunting efforts and forget Because the president has said, you know, you need to be creative. And so their creativity can even extend to an extent whereby they are now going to lose their core business and focus on making money. That is a risk that we also actually face. But when it comes to issue of identifying who is vulnerable and who is not, you pussy. I mean, we're Kenyans. We know these children.
And the reason I brought up this question is because we have seen high school students who the student is not able to join the secondary school because he doesn't have money and he is trying.
I am paying school fees for a lot of children. That much I know. But we need to actually move away from this because the reason it peeves me is because we do this every year. You find children of able-bodied people being moved. You know, we have scholarships. There's a time, you might not even know, there's a time we have 1,000 scholarships to China. Whose children went? Which child from your village went? You tell me.
All right. There's another
That
thing.
is a problem we need to address.
Yeah.
You know, and institutions that are basically placed to actually do this work need to do their work so that when they're actually going to talk to that teacher, talk to that administrator, we should not go there alafu wanapewa mbuzi wanasema hiyo sasa tuachilie. We know, and of course, using technology now, we can say, Troy mepata scholarship, but he's not deserving.
All right.
Let's say it. Let's be open.
Indeed, that's quite a candid conversation I'm having here with Dr. Vincent Kaido, who is the Secretary General for the National Association of Private Universities in Kenya, and also Dr. Mark Matunga, who is an educationalist and also a technology evangelist, and also President and CEO of Africa Center for Advanced Technology. We'll be back with this discussion. Let's take a quick break. Be right back.
Mbozile malume, do I need to remind you I am your elder? I mean your Linda. Talk to me like that one more time and utatua mgunguni nini.
How can you wear like a scarecrow like this, missing colors like this, my friend?
Barakanash, yes. You should just tell us about your long night. No problem. Now,
who's your name? Shout out for the lyrics, come on.
Julia, are you excited?
This is the season for weddings, and so far I have been invited to how many? 4.
Hayawi mwishowe huwa Embu County 014 mliuliza tukajibu. Stesheni mpya ya Ngemi FM inawaalika mjumuike nasi katika bonge la roadshow itakayofanyika katika kaunti ya Embu. Kutakuwa na burudani, vichekesho na zawadi kemkem za kushindaniwa.
Ijumaa tarehe 12 mwezi huu wa Mei, msafara wa Ngemi FM utaanzia Embu na kuelekea Rueka, Muraro, Meka, Keretire, Siakago, Ogwere, Karurumo, Kanywambora na kumalizia siku ni Eshiara.
Jumamosi tarehe 13, msafara wa Ngemi FM utaanzia Embu na kutembelea maeneo ya Motondore, Manyata, Kianjokoma, Ronyenjes na kurudi Embu.
Baadaye mwendo wa saa 8 mchana ungana nasi katika afra kubwa ya uzinduzi rasmi wa kituo cha Ngemi FM katika uwanja wa chuo kikuu cha Embu.
Kisha kufuatiliwa na usiku wa burudani ndani ya Ngemi Night katika Gerish Hotel kuanzia saa 2 usiku hadi che.
Jumapili tarehe 14 tutatamatisha ziara yetu ya uzinduzi wa Gemi FM na ibada ya shukrani katika St. Peter ACK Cathedral, Chicago.
103.5 tumetua.
Gemi FM,
Moshi wa Urata.
Welcome back to KBC News Tech. Indeed, we're having a candid conversation regarding higher education, that is TVETs and universities here, and I have two doctors here who are education specialists to help us steer into those murky waters of education. And before we just delve into that, let's first of all, for a couple of minutes, check what is currently happening at Safari Park Hotel, where we have the launch of Plead 2, which is a program of legal empowerment and aid delivery in Kenya. And currently speaking is the CJ, Martha Koome. Let's first of all listen in.
Of the prisons. Together with other partners, we have also benefited from Plead 1, contributions made towards the areas of child justice, sexual and gender-based violence, and the green justice. We recently held a very successful Africa conference, bringing together chief justices from the continent to speak to issues of climate change, the role the judiciary should take in greening our countries and also greening the judiciaries. This intervention has included of solar panels in far-flung and high-court traffic court stations such as the Tononoka, Chanzu, Galsen, Winam, and Maseno. In this respect, we in the judiciary have noted 80% reduction in power consumption related to costs in some cases. For example, in Gazen. I think we need to clap for that. That we can use free power from the sun without paying anything. And that should really be the trend. This has inspired the judiciary to consider a novel or long-term off-grid plan for all our courts, a proposal that is being considered by the committee. The program further aligns with the justice sector renewed focus on technology as a centered justice. Plead 1, the COVID pandemic supports us in a significant way as it is
Chief Justice Martha Koome, who is also the President of the Supreme Court and the Chairman of the National Council on Administration of Justice, there and addressing the Plead 2 summit that is at the Safari Park Hotel. First of all, I do apologize for that weak signal, and as soon as that is corrected, we will be going back there to know more in regards to how she is beefing up access to justice in the country. But away from that, we have been discussing matters education and have been having two scholars, Dr. Vincent Kaido, Secretary General of the National Association of Private Universities in Kenya, where we are putting into perspective the new higher education fund model as announced by the head of state, President William Ruto, on 3rd of May. We need to wrap up this conversation, but before we do that, Dr. kindly, the National Association of Private University of Kenya. What exactly is your mandate? Because you started by saying that indeed the government did plan the way it planned the new model, but it doesn't affect you in any way. What is the mandate of your association?
Thank you very much. I would say this. Anytime a government makes a policy statement or introduces a law, it affects all stakeholders in that space. And therefore, I wouldn't say that public universities or private universities are not affected. Not really. Because at the end of the day, as much as students who are being supported will also be directed to the universities to go to. They are not given the freedom to go with their money to the universities they would wish to study. That obviously has an effect. Because it is saying, as private universities, we are in this space to offer an opportunity to students. We have invested greatly in terms of resources, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of space and everything. And this ambient, very high quality environments would be an added advantage to the vulnerable to enjoy this, because it is student-centered. It is not university-centered. If it is student-centered, give the student freedom. Support the student, let the student select the university to go to. Now, the National Association of Private Universities in Kenya. There are two associations that take care of the private university space. The first one is the Kenya Association of Private Universities. This is an association of the vice chancellors of private universities. They have their consortium where they discuss matters of interest, and they do sharing and interact at that point. The National Association of Private Universities is an association of the sponsors, the owners, and the private universities. Just like government is the owner of public universities, private universities have owners. Could be church-based, could be corporates, could be individuals, could be families. These founders come together to form a forum where they too can negotiate, lobby, and move areas of interest with the stakeholders. So it is an umbrella body for the founders, for the sponsors of private universities. Yes.
And because you are a scholar and our time has run out, I would like you to weigh in on the back to school. The universities are going back to school, the primary schools, the secondary schools as well. And there have been a lot of challenges, and especially JSS, the junior secondary school, the delay in capitation. I would like you to weigh in on that as we wrap up.
Actually, before the late minister left Magoha, he was very passionate about the junior secondary. And he went out to inspect physically how prepared institutions were in terms of receiving the junior secondary. And people invested. I can tell you, especially in the private sector, heavy investments were made. Because initially, it was not clear where these institutions, these new schools were to be domiciled. Unfortunately, I don't think we did much in the public schools. Yet they all migrated into junior secondary. So it's a big challenge, and we need a lot of preparedness. We need a lot of support. The government must move in, especially to support the public schools. The public schools need staff, they need infrastructure, they need the labs, they need these kids to feel psychologically they are in another space. And that's a big challenge. Therefore, we would say any effort should not be spared by the government if education is to remain the hallmark of our future. In fact, we always say Kenya should be the education hub in this region. Now that the East African community has gone all the way to DRC, Kenya should be the destination even for for international students. Therefore, we need to work from the basic education all the way to the university education. And therefore, I would say, let the government not be shy to invest. Let's not hear teachers, high school teachers, secondary, primary school teachers complaining all the time about capitation. I think we need to be smart in the way we plan things. If we have taken this as our way of doing business, let us support it. Let us put the budget with no disruption. Of course, that's what I would say. Otherwise, the moment we wait for schools to complain, kids to go to school, they don't have the support, they don't have the capitation, we're not doing well.
All right. Indeed. We are out of time, but thank you so much indeed, Daktari, for coming. Dr. Vincent Gaido is the SecGen, National Association of Private Universities in Kenya. And earlier on, we also had Dr. Mark Matunga, who is an educationist and technology evangelist, as he calls it. They're putting things into perspective in matters the higher education fund model. Well, for now, that discussion is done and dusted, but on the second hour, we are looking at road safety matters, and I'll be honored to be hosting Dr. Duncan Kibogong, who is the Deputy Director, Road Safety at the NTSA. Any questions, suggestions, you are highly welcome on our Twitter or even on our Facebook fan page. But for now, let's first of all cross over to the Safari Park Hotel, where the PS for State Department for Gender and Affirmative Action, Veronica Nduva. Okay, we seem to be having some technical issues there, but for now, let's take a quick breather. But when we come back, we look at matters of road safety.
Slowly, your spouse is less important. I feel so lonely. I want to cry.
What a big surprise.
My God!
Jenny. Isn't this all one and only Jenny?
If you have time to come, you're all welcome.
Oh, you got the job completely on your own this time.
So now, right now, let's celebrate your happy marriage in the future and
Charlene's bright future at Pullman. Cheers!
Kazi zote za nyumba utazifanya wewe.
Ndugu yangu, kweli wewe wathamini utu.
Na hapa kwa Mungu leo labda asije.
Ni mangapi wewe umenisaidia?
Usifatane na watu ambao kwamba hawana tabia njema.
Mwenye leo na alikuwa biriani kwa kinasombwana na atakwenda kula na kete na wapikia nyinyi.
Tulipoingia kwao, mamake alianza kumkaripia na kumpiga kama punda.
Ninachokitaka pesa zangu.
Pesa? Yaani amekuja kula kwetu ndio maana akapigwa namna hii.
Mambo yote mwachie Mungu. Pumbavu wewe. Alokutuma wewe hujaniamsha hapa nani?
Kuanzia leo usijaribu kuniita kwa kesi za kipumbavu.
Drinker. Mwenyewe na mikono yangu naweza kwenda kutia hizo nguo katika maji.
Basi zaeni wenu. Mwale mutakavo.
Welcome back. Just in case you joined us, this is KBC News Check, and on this second hour we are looking at matters road safety, and I'm honored to be having Dr. Duncan Kibogong, who is the Deputy Director Road Safety at the National Transport and Safety Authority, NTSA. All the questions that you have, including I have a question regarding number plates, but we will be getting to that. Road safety, ndudhis or border borders as you like to call them, all of them we are going to be looking at that. But first things first, karibu sana Doc.
Thank you so much, asante sana. Thank you for inviting us to the studios.
Karibuni sana. Another thing, yes. You're also in the middle of a crackdown. Tell us about that.
Yes. We are currently having an operation, national-wide operations, multi-agency for that matter, involving the National Police Service, amongst others. The whole intention around here is to drive the aspect around road safety in our roads. One of the things you may have noticed is that schools are currently opening, started probably yesterday or 2 days back, and it's ongoing. The number of people moving across the country from point A to B in a road system is quite high. And based on that, traditionally, with such movements comes with a number of road mishaps, including road traffic crashes, which may at times end up in injuries and fatalities and property damage. So the NTSA and its government, and following the directive of the Cabinet Secretary in charge of Transport, Roads and Transport, Honorable Murkomen, we are embarking on a national-wide campaign and operation which is geared towards ensuring that there is some fair level of good behavior of road users on our roads. And when we saw road users here, we're talking about drivers, because they're the main people who operate on our roads, to ensure that, one, that you are licensed to drive and have the right license for the vehicle you're driving. Two, is that your driving behavior is in keeping with safety traditions around it, including not speeding, including not drink driving, including that you have all the necessary certification and licenses to drive that particular vehicle. And on top of that is also the other reasons. We do a lot of sensitization. One of the things which we are doing in this particular operation, which is, as I said, is multi-sectoral, is to ensure that the vehicles on our roads are roadworthy. Roadworthy means that naturally, and just like we always say, vehicles undergo wear and tear as they operate on the road system. So that wear and tear, it gets to a point whereby the vehicle is supposed to be serviced to be roadworthy. And as NTSA, we conduct a lot of what you call motor vehicle inspections, both at our centers and out there randomly on the road, so that we ensure that those vehicles operating on the road which are not roadworthy, which are risky to the road users, the passengers, and Kenyans at large, are done away with. Then, of course, the whole aspect which we're working around is on the sensitization. And sensitization and education programs is targeted on different road users, whether you're a passenger, whether you're a rider, whether you're a driver, and general public, so that we have this safety culture in ourselves across board, and in the long run we improve road safety. Just as I conclude, one of the things we always and we're working towards is to speed is one of the biggest risk factors. In fact, it's estimated up to 30 to probably 40% of fatal road traffic crashes, one way or the other one, as an element of speed in it. So as the government, we are on the PSVs and heavy commercial vehicles, we have installed speed limiters, which is going to check on the speeds on the road. So one of the things which we are currently working on is to ensure that more vehicles are onboarded into the new systems which we've developed, so that we monitor the vehicles across board, including school buses, which in the recent past and with the massive movement going on currently when schools are opening, is to ensure that also becomes part and parcel of our operations. But as I said, and I think this needs to come out very clear and probably repeat it again and again, is that for your viewers and Kenyan viewers at large watching this particular program of yours, we need to work towards having road safety to become a personal responsibility. It doesn't need to have a government by your side or a stick for that matter to ensure that you behave well. And I think that is what the conversations we're having with Kenyans, so that we work towards ensuring that road safety is everyone's responsibility, and better still, your responsibility, a personal responsibility.
Yes, and this falls squarely in your dockets, the road safety. And I'm looking at between January and March of this year, about 900 Kenyans had died on the roads, and that was a decrease of about 4.6%.
Yes.
Is it the usalama barabarani or what
yes,
exactly?
Yes. Since the beginning of the year, we've noticed a percentage decrease in the number of crashes in the country from the statistics we get from the National Police Service. We get it every other day, and we do analysis on different brackets of road users, whether you are pedestrian, motorcyclists, you know, passengers, and all that. There's a general decline in the number of fatalities as compared to similar period last year. In fact, statistics up to 18th shows that reduction which you've talked about. But one, yes, so that is a reduction. It is because of the efforts of ourselves in government and other stakeholders to work towards reducing this. We want to have this sustainably in terms of a decline across board and for a long period of time, and would work towards having less facilities, less than 1,000 probably per year, and that would be really commendable. But I'll put it this way, that yes, the numbers have gone down, and that is something we really want to work towards improving. It's too early to pat ourselves on the back, but I think the whole idea is that we need to reduce it completely. One life lost is one too many. In fact, that is the clarion call we always say. One life lost is too many, because that is a human being. It's not just one number as a statistic, but a life. And you know, life brings a different dimension. It's not just a statistic. It's not just like a tree which has fallen down, you know. It is not. It is a human life. It can be me, it can be you, it can be anyone else. So one life lost is one too many. And that's why we really want to work towards zero fatalities, zero injuries on our roads, and that is what we're working towards. But yes, the Usalama Barabarani initiative, which has a number of objectives, or has a number of facets to it, including the public education awareness program, which we do on the members of the general public, the road users. We have targeted campaigns to border to motorcyclists. We have programs around schools whereby we would want to have our children, young generation who are currently in school, play a bigger role on matters road safety on two fronts, probably three. One is that as they go to school, us as the caretakers, including government, the teachers and the rest, and the community at large, ensure that children arrive in school safely, they walk out of school safety. Speeds around schools need to go down. We need to support them as they cross the road, because they are vulnerable road users because of their age, amongst other factors. So that is the whole aspect around on the schools. Then the second front around schools is to work towards incorporating road safety curriculum into the national schools program. And this is something which we've discussed with the Ministry of Education, and in particular Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, and we are currently running a program which we really want to put nationally, so that as someone grows through the education system, they become a better road user than ourselves who are already out of that particular system. And we'd hope the future gets better. Then of course the whole aspect around the multi-agency programs you do with the National Police Service in terms of enforcement, which you've mentioned, and I would really want Kenyans at large, as they watch this program, that let you not be gotten on the wrong side of the law, not now, but at all times. So we work towards ensuring that you are always safe on the road. Then the whole aspect around motor vehicle inspections, which I mentioned about, the road safety audits, amongst other programs which you're doing with Kenyans at large, which you work towards improving the public service vehicles, heavy commercial vehicle. But as I said, we are not there yet, not as a government, but as a country, because this is an agenda we want to push, not just from a government point of view, but us as a movement. You know, all of us, everyone should not be left behind in this.
All right. And talking about school children, we've seen buses ferrying students and people to functions like dowry, choirs and stuff, and they have been involved in accidents. What are you doing to ensure that school buses, and they stick to the time? Sometimes you find a school bus in a really weird hour.
And if you had the cabinet secretary about probably 3 weeks back, when he addressed the nation and he actually addressed the parliament, I think from the National Assembly, and he did say that, and he gave quite clear instructions around operations of school buses. If you have a school bus operating, then he gave timelines of when it needs to operate. We cannot at high-risk hours, and those are night hours and the hours of darkness, because traditionally those are hours associated with it. So we've issued clear instructions at highest level, and the ministry have done that at highest level possible, with right communication to the right implementers, including the National Police Service, to ensure that it's enforced, to the school management and administration to ensure that they don't violate some of those rules which are in place, and not using school buses for roles which they are not supposed to be doing, as you've mentioned. And if they have to do the right procedures, which they need to approach the regulator to be advised along. But school buses should remain school buses as much as possible, and ensure that when we ferrying our school children, there are also safety features or safety aspects which not go into it, including what actually the cabinet secretary said, that they should be belted on. You should have a belt at all. You should not just, just because a child is a small weight and two can fit into,
one belt.
Two on one belt or three on one belt. That is not acceptable, and those are some of the things. But going forward, we're going to strengthen some of those rules as we move along. Of course, the rules are there and they are very, very effective, and any other gap which would be identified around the same would be implemented, would be addressed. But as we speak, we feel that we do have adequate laws to address the same, and we've communicated the same to all schools through relevant structures of government. And I think if you've seen as the school opened, the reason we've been monitoring, there's fair level of compliance to some of those directives and compliance to the laws.
All right, let's look at the vehicle itself.
Yes.
The vehicle inspection.
Correct.
First and foremost, the process is so tedious. Secondly, I hosted, I believe 2-3 weeks ago, I hosted the Association of Speed Governors and Limiters officials here.
Yes.
And they say that there are some vehicles that get even the certificate itself without even having to go there. There's a lot of corruption there as well.
Well, let me put it this way. As NTSA, and we've done, if you've noticed where we've come from very far. This function which we took it not so long ago, since when the inception of NTSA, probably 10 years back. And some of the things we put into place is, one, is to automate our services. And this is something which takes some bit of time, but we really have a plan, a serious plan around that, whereby we're working towards automation of motor vehicle inspection. And automation is, we want to remove that interface, because interface between the client and the regulator, the person the motor vehicle inspector. So much so that if you come and bring your vehicle and you want to take the braking system or the steering system, then that is just something which, and we have the technologies there which can check that without having a human. So it just basically shows you on a monitoring screen that fail and pass. You fail, these are the things which you need to go and correct. And some of those information is, you just can't tamper with, because whenever the human component, that interface between the inspector and the vehicle owner or the driver or whoever who brought the vehicle is separated by technology which is tamper-proof, then it brings that aspect to do with corruption. We've really done, and our procedures, including our HR policy and manuals, are quite strict. And for those who partake that exercise of corruption, of course, face the wrath in terms of disciplinary action. But put it this way, I think it's important for your viewers and Kenyans at large and people who come for these services from our end to bring to the attention to that it is not enough to claim that there's corruption ABCD without providing facts. And better still for us, we've even put mechanism in place whereby you can provide that information anonymously, and with that anonymously, by law, it's possible to investigate and work towards, handling that particular matter. But as we walk along, this is one of the things which I would want to tell your viewers, and as government is being agreed, that motor vehicle inspection is an area which we are working towards outsourcing. Yes, outsourcing, so that as a regulator we'll have limited number of limited number of motor vehicle inspection for PSVs and probably for heavy commercial vehicles, because the general feeling across board is that we need to have all vehicles in the country inspected. The fact that we have currently PSV vehicles and heavy commercial vehicles being inspected, we need to have your vehicle and my vehicle or any other people's vehicle privately to be inspected, just the way it happens, because it will appear discriminatory that only the vehicles who are in public service sector and heavy commercial sector are the ones subjected to motor vehicle inspection by government. Why? And yet these vehicles undergo wear and tear. They tear down, the damages we move along, and that has a posing. So that is the direction we work towards motor, and this, the law actually is there, that it's just that because of capacity we are not doing it. And that's why we've drafted what you call motor vehicle outsourcing rules. We've done public participation, and generally Kenyans in large believe that the aspect around outsourcing of motor vehicle inspectors, so that it will be a service you can get across the country from all the corners of the country. And on top of that, we'll be playing the big role of the regulator, providing the standards and issuing the licenses which will come. And there's a whole framework around that which we're working on. That indeed will cut out some of the things you're talking about, which some of your speakers had addressed earlier. You said that they'd come to your studio around the same. But seriously, I think if you see the progression you've done all across right from the beginning, when we took up that function, there's much improvement. We are working on of course, we are not there yet, and you'll be seeing this. I'm sure you'll be inviting us to your studios and we'll be showing this. And even better still, as you walk around some of these rules and as you implement, it's probably high time KBC to come and run a feature on some of our inspection centers and other services we offer. So
is that an invite? Because I'll take
yes, it's an invite. You can always come and we can discuss all aspects around how, as NTSA, we will move from the traditional, analog approach to the services delivered to the modern, from where you are in your bedroom, you're able to apply for renewal of your license and get it there, and which is authenticated and which somebody can validate easily with probably a phone and otherwise, because we want to cut these cartels. And technology has come big time, and this is something we need to incorporate in the sector. In fact, I'll probably put this way, that the vision of the ministry and NTSA, and in particular the cabinet secretary, is the whole aspect around use of technology in enforcement and in other functions which would be used to reduce road traffic fatalities on the road. And I think that vision is there, and we've gotten those instructions, and we're working towards around automation across board, even working towards having less police police officers on the road checking on some of the things which would otherwise be implemented by use of technology, including cameras and all that.
All right, and I want to go back to Salama Barabarani or other programs that you have geared towards ensuring that our roads are safe. Yes. A case in point, in some countries, when you have a road accident or even you cause a road accident, before you are let back to the roads, you are retested, your license is checked to check whether everything has conformed to the rules of the day. A case in point is I got my license in 2002.
Yes.
That is about 21 years back.
Yes.
Yes, I've not been involved in major accidents or something, but I've never been retested. I've never been checked whether maybe I have issues of my eyesight, whether my mental capability is fine. And that is what I've been driving for 21 years.
Yes, yes. This is you're very right. Of course, I'll come to some of the interventions, but to talk about what you truly talked about is, I'll start it this way. Driver of a vehicle is one important, fulcrum, if I may use, when it comes to matters road safety in our road systems, and that is very important. And one of the things is that as NTSA, we've done a number of stuff which we are working towards what you're talking about. And for a very long time, and this is what needs to come out, I'll come to answer your question by starting this, that when we've never had a driving school curriculum or standards for that matter across board until when NTSA came. Since independence, even before pre-colonial, what driving school A would train or teach or instruct would be different from what driving school B, C, D, E, F. Basically, for a very long time, you just need to register yourself as a driving school. Whether you teach 2 lessons or 10 lessons on whatever you want to teach is your own. But what have we done? We've come up with a standard curriculum which says that for you to operate fast as a driving school, these are the very minimum things or rather minimum checklists or minimum requirements you need. That's why we've vetted and removed some of these driving schools which operate on top of bars, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because you could go to a squeezed area. So even if you say you have 50 students, we need to ensure that those 50 students can fit into a class, and we even done the measurements from the personal space around each of the students, among its other facilities and all that. So we came up with what a driving school entails, and that one is what we've weeded out a number of them. Of course, it wasn't very easy because some people say they were losing business, but you see, the other way around is that safety is not something which is just business. It needs to be done within some minimum parameters. Number 2 is the issue to do with what you need to train, and that's what you instruct, and that's the curriculum. And that's why we have modules. How many hours should you subject a border driver or someone who wants to become a border in terms of theory training and practicals? And it comes out very clearly in terms of hours and on what topical areas, Is it about diagnostic? Is it about steering? Is it about, first aid and all that? And those are some of the things we put for. So the issue of curriculum came into place. Then the instructors, we have a curriculum also for instructor. And our whole process of how to become an instructor is coming to place. Now, we are now working towards, after putting now the structures of what a driving school, which will be replicated across board. And replicated even when you are a driving school A and you have another branch in Kisumu or Eldoret. Each of these is independent, but they should all fit to the national, standards. And those are in the driving school rules which you've come across. So that is our progress. And if you see currently, it's not very easy as it used to be during our time to work towards having to become a driver. But nevertheless, we are, in fact, the rules, the regulations, the Kenyan laws demands that you and me, at every other particular interval, periodically, should go back for a refresher training. And we are starting currently this July, and we have clear instructions from the Cabinet Secretary. And as I said, I would wish that you probably bring that discussion and probably what he presented to Parliament when he made that statement. And for us, those are serious directives. Is the whole aspect that we need to have refresher training.
For PSV drivers, or including personal
and
drivers.
commercial drivers, and as we move towards me and you who are private drivers. Because, one is that roads have changed, interchanges have come. During our time, and I suppose yourself, you said 21 years back, we did not have the expressway, force expressways, So those are some of the dynamics. We are now having more complex roads with more complex junctions, and requires complex maneuvers and thinking and reading of the road and all that. And that requires people have to go back to class for refresher, because driving is a profession. As a journalist, I think every year you are accredited or
Yes.
you have the CPD.
Every year.
That, yes. So because of the change of how things are done, technology is here in us. So what is drivers doing about? So that is what we are working towards, to have all the PSVs and HCVs drivers as we work towards the issues of the private vehicles, and basically everyone to refresher training. Two is that as you go for those refresher training, the issues of medical assessment, and currently we are in discussion with the relevant agencies, including the Ministry of Health, Kenya Medical Practitioner and Dentist Council, Director of Occupational Health and Safety, and we've come up with modalities such that beginning July, one, if you have to become a driver, before you go to driving school, you've got to have a medical assessment which will say indeed Duncan, for example, and that is me, can go to a driving school because he's medically fit and suitable, can become a driver. Because there are other people which, because of a medical condition, may not become a driver. And that's how it is. Just like you cannot become a pilot because of ABCD. And this is how it is supposed to. Number two is that if you become a driver, as you age and as you're exposed to the vagaries of life, including aging, including diseases, then there's some things, including injuries, there's some situations which may make you not be a driver, or you become a driver in a particular format. What I'm saying is that as you age, then probably your sight changes. So you need to be sure that, like me, I can't drive without my specs on. So some other people may not, so basically some of those things need to come, and that's why every other interval, with a minimum of every 3 years, then someone needs to be subjected. And that will be beginning by the end of July, so that all of us would go into it, because in the long run it's gone. So that all regime around driver is something which we are currently working on. We have come from far. Actually, we are in our tail end, because we're working about refresher training, including those who actually perform. If you do perform badly in the road system, and basically what you're saying causing a crash, then we need to find out, are you fit to drive? Will and license.
Yeah, because that is not happening right now, and we have seen a lot of drivers who have caused, they might not be major accident, but it's an accident nonetheless.
Yes.
But you find them on the road a few days later and nothing happens.
We've done that. We've suspended a few licenses. We've revoked some. The only thing is that some of them need to go through a court process. But those are some of the things which we are going to address, so that there and then the regulator can, through the a fair system of administration of justice, you get your licenses suspended for a period of time, or revoked even permanently if you do crazy, stuff, so to speak.
Yes, let's look at the border sector.
Yes.
Looking at many hospitals have a dedicated ward for border riders who happen to be in accidents, and the numbers, if you look at the numbers year in, year out, they are staggering, What exactly are you doing? Yes, I know there is a plan that all border should join a recognized SACCO. What exactly are you doing to ensure that this road safety, because we need these borders?
Correct.
At the end of the day, they are also causing a lot of accidents. What are some of the programs that you have earmarked to ensure that we have
some of the programs, of course, just to bring some little history, so that we are in the same page with all majority of your viewers, or all your viewers for that matter, is that, yes, border was not a big problem until 2005 or 2006 or so, when there was a zero rating of taxes around the same, with the whole intention of having more people move in the rural areas and suburban areas, including the employment and all that. So, but the numbers, yes, have gone up, right from 5% in terms of, it used to be about 5% fatal crashes were because of border to a current 40%, 37 to 40%. That's quite a big increase.
That's a big number.
And it has been a source of concern. And as NTSA and as government, and indeed as a society, I think everyone knows that this is something which we need to address all simply, holistically, and in a sustainable manner. And some of the things which have come around this is that because most of these people, the riders, have not been trained. And we've come up with a curriculum around the same. And there's a whole category, or what do you call category of drivers on that. And we put, as I said, number of hours and all that. Number two, of course, with the relevant licensing around the same. Two is that we do a lot of public education around the same. They are a big number. We are working with the national administration, so that this is something which is done virtually at the lowest unit possible, probably at assistant, chief level and all that. And that is why the Motorcycle Regulation 2015 demands and stipulates that for you to operate a border for pay, then you need to be in a group, whether SACCO or a company or whatever, of 30. We began registration of these borders. We're really pushing them into groups so that they have what we call self-regulation. As you may be aware, when we came up with PSV rules a while back, the number of fatalities due to PSV, the matatus, have dramatically really gone down. In fact, we talk a lot about them, but their numbers are actually very low because of the self-regulation across the sector, the licensing, the issue to do driver training to ensure that not just everyone can hold on to it. So we're working with relevant government agencies, including NYS and others, so that we have mass train of the serious backlog of the number of riders who have not been trained, but they're riding out there. And we are calling upon different other actors, including the county government, to play a role in wherever they are so that we have these people, of the residents of those particular counties who are riders, to be trained. Then there's all aspect, of course, which is not very easy, is enforcement. But as I said, we cannot be in virtually every village, and we cannot be just enforcing just for this. So we want to bring these people into some groupings which are formal, and we engage them and build them on a number of areas, including ensuring that they are able to bring some discipline. And indeed, and probably, as I said, since I invited you to check on some of the NTSA, we will probably invite you, maybe you've been interested in a documentary on some of the SACCOs, border SACCOs, who have really done very well on a number of fronts, including safety and discipline, including entrepreneurship, including, amongst others, because of having to be in a group, identify themselves, and they set some standards which they are going to operate on, in terms of that they need to have all their riders trained, they need to have them licensed, they cannot drink and ride, how they handle, So there is a whole, a whole thing around the importance of why we need to put them into groups, and of course working in the government agenda of the day of supporting these people. I think that comes very handy. So yes, we are not there yet, but those are some of the areas we are addressing and doing public education on them, putting them into groups, ensuring that they are supported and all that. And this calls not just for us, and the media does play a big role. You speak to more people than myself every day, and if you can spend 1 hour, or rather even 10 minutes or 5 minutes or even 1 minute, talking to the border out there who is listening to us now, to really go all the way to ensuring that we have more sanity in this particular sector.
Okay, let's look at technology.
Yes.
In some countries, find that the road is clear, you have to stop at the traffic sign.
Yes.
And if you don't, there are cameras to see you there, and you're penalized for that.
Correct.
Here in Kenya, you just have to check whether there are any vehicles. Despite the light, then you go. And we have seen crashes because of this. And even the discipline on the roads. If I know Big Brother is watching, I know very well that if I get to a stop, I have to stop. If it's a zebra crossing, I have to do that. Now in Kenya, you have to dodge, and it's a zebra crossing. Why can't we use technology or employ technology to the point that you can even be fined despite the fact that there is no cop or there's no one who is looking at you?
Yes, the role of technology.
And you have cameras, especially in Nairobi.
Yes, the role of technology in matters road safety is being documented, and indeed it's been documented that it does a lot of work, especially on the major risk factors, which I'll mention briefly. And as government and as NTSA, we are investing massively and huge in matters technology to improve road safety. And this brings a whole aspect around the same, because why that person escapes is that even if you take my camera, you take my picture, even if there's a camera, you will not be able to tie that vehicle to me. And that's why we are working on a range of issues. As NTSA, we are digitizing our data on motor vehicle inspection, including the border.
Yes.
The riders, the drivers, so that now we know, and all that. So, and if you may have heard, as I said before, we are investing big in technology, and you probably are aware that we, as government, we are working towards automating enforcement, especially on high-risk areas like some of the roads, whereby if you are on particular road, say for example Salga Road, if you're speeding beyond recommended limit, then that camera should be able to pick that the plate of the vehicle, tie it up to the owner, or tie it up to the driver, and subsequently a smart way of ensuring that you are informed that you've done A, B, C, D, and therefore your fine is this. And one of the things we've introduced, and we are in the process of implementing it fully, we are not there yet, is the instant fine regime, whereby instead of, because the traditional approach whereby if a police officer gets me on the road, the administration of justice is that he has to go and draft a charge sheet, take you to court, and for you to plead guilty that you sped at 120 kilometers and you're fined. But if you agree right from the beginning, yes, I agree that I'm in agreement that indeed, yes, I went beyond the speed limit, then why is it not possible that I get fined there and then, rather than having to wait a whole day, or even having to travel distance back and forth to Nakuru for hearing, or for all that kind of thing, or mention for that matter, which will take a year. So there's a whole committee currently working on that, together with the National Judiciary, with the DPP, with the police, with ourselves, among others, so that we speed up the whole aspect around administrative of justice as relates to traffic offenses, so that we don't clock our courts on that. Number two is that we make it speedier. Number three, we make it convenient for us as government who are implementing, but at the same time for the person who has violated, and ensures, and of course cutting down on some of these things. So much so that if you are rushing to the airport, and because of that rush you sped along Mombasa Road, and you went to 120 kilometers, which is of course illegal, then the police officer stopping you would not hold on to you, but you say, yes, that's fine, I'm in agreement. If you are not, then the court process kicks in. If you are, then there and then, and use of technology, including mobile monies and others, you pay the fine to government. Of course, that is, and those are limited to some particular violations. And those are the ones we call them there's some way of classifying the same. But that notwithstanding, on the aspect of employment of technology, is something we are currently working on together with the National Police Service, the road authorities, the relevant county governments, because they are the people also in charge of traffic around there, so that issues to do with traffic, including red light jumping, among others, speeding, not putting on a belt, which can be detected by use of technology, comes into play, so that you don't need to, because human beings are very strange. If I violate, and in my mind I'm convinced that nothing will be traced back to me, that's why people violate. But when we have our systems, include our records, so that if I pick your vehicle, K, whatever, and I know this belongs to this particular person, and I'm aware that if I jam that light, the next day in my phone, I'll get a message that this is how it is. If you try to question, the records are there. And all this we are working with the data protection laws, so that it comes, because Kenyans is
we definitely could use that, and I'm quite sure there are some people who are going to get some discipline because of that. All right. Looking at the way actually technology has really helped, but even if we have the best technology, I've in the last 6 months I've traveled quite a bit, and I can tell you that the roads, the marking themselves, the bumps, we don't even have some indicators that there's a bump there, and these are causing some of the accidents. These are some of the things that the government should do. I don't know how you're working with other guys,
of
including
course,
the
we
Kenya
work
Highways
with all
technology.
government. As I said, the beauty about this government is that we have a whole government approach to an issue which is cross-cutting, and this is, for this case, like road safety or this road safety challenge. Indeed, we work with the road authorities, because they are the owners of those roads. They're the ones who fix the road. They do the road markings. They put the relevant, posting of speeds and all that, directions and all that. But they have also posed a challenge, and this is what I'll put back to our Kenyans out there. that a road is done very well, speeds are posted quite well, and road rails and guardrails are put. But we have this habit as Kenyans of whenever we see a metal, we fall attracted and we begin mining it out there, basically pulling it for scrap metal and all that. And that's why some of the roads lose that. But nevertheless, some of the programs the road authorities have been running have been replacing some of those which are damaged either by a vehicle eating them, and some of the road markings which are, fading, they are remarked again. But that is something which they will continuously do. And I think if you compare ourselves, we've just been in Uganda not so long ago, the level of the road markings in our major highways have really gone up. Of course, this is something we'll keep on doing back and forth. But one of the things which comes quite handy, especially in the rainy seasons which we are currently in the last, is that people disregard the very basic instincts even on themselves, including, driving across a swollen river or a swollen, riverbed or something like that. And these are some of the things we tell people. And this brings me to the same thing, that anything safety in this world, we'd want people to see it from a selfish point of view, from my point of view. Don't say that because this is not available, because that road sign was there. It was pulled down by a scrupulous person. And for me, I know this road, I don't think the speeds are not, even if it was not posted, then, and this is why the driver needs that this speed is not good for this road, because it's slippery. Or it is because it is, it does not have a road sign. Then you speed and you crash, and then you say there was no road sign. Yes, it wasn't there, but you make it in the long run, you are the one who's gonna lose. So make road safety your responsibility. It's just like when you're operating your house, make sure that the cables are well put away. The government is not there to ensure that your cables from electric cables are, exposed, and your kids can touch it or you can touch it or that. It's your responsibility to push those things away. If there's a rugged area, you make sure that it's flat, because if you fall into a ditch, you fall into it, and you. Let's make road safety a personal responsibility. All right. Yes.
Because of the interest of time.
Yes.
The 3,000 shillings for the number plate, for the digital number plates that we have, you ask me included, a number of Kenyans have raised concerns that it's a little bit exorbitant.
It isn't exorbitant because of a number of factors. One, when it came out to some of those, and this is Kenya's constitution is quite clear, is that some of these are subject to public participation. And if you ask us, actually it was even far higher than that. But because of, the situations, the economic situations and all that, that's what, with public participation, probably, when we had the figure we had suggested was probably thrice or double that.
Right. Maybe you can tell Kenyans why.
And it has come down to that. One is that those new places, by all definition, it has features of, it's called securitized. Basically, it has security features therein. One of the problems which we've had for a very long time, from even pre-independence, is that number plate is a security feature, and you do not want to have the same plate of your car in another man's or another vehicle. Or when you go into a parking, you sing your vehicle and you thought that there was no other. It's basically an identity. It's just like a name. You should not be having another person by that name. And if you have two names the same, then there should be another identifier. What we are saying is that this has features therein, which are security features, able to be tracked, able to be, all those things therein. And we are doing this with other partners, and the fair price which you put forth, because you're also acquiring this, we purchase this from a third party. And in that case, that price which you put forth to Kenyans is indeed is fair.
All right.
Yes.
All right. Thank you indeed so much. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. But since you've talked about campaigns, and we used to see these campaigns on television years back, you should partner with KBC.
We will bring here and we'll have some MOU if need be, so that we work around this.
Thank you. I'll hold you to that. Thank you, Did. I've been speaking to Dr. Duncan Kipagong, who is the Deputy Director, Road Safety at the National Transport and Safety Authority, NTSA, discussing matters road safety. Indeed, thank you so much for joining us. Unfortunately, we have run out of time, but we can continue this conversation on our social media platform. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Njue. Thank you for watching.
Kazi zote za nyumba utazifanya wewe.
Ndugu yangu, kweli wewe wathamini utu.
Na hapa kwa Mungu leo labda asije.
Ni mangapi wewe umenisaidia?
Usifatane na watu ambao kwamba hawana tabia njema.
Mwenye leo na alikuwa biriani kwa kinasombwana na atakwenda kula na kete na wapikia nyinyi.
Tulipoingia kwao, mamake alianza kumkaripia na kumpiga kama punda.
Ninachokitaka pesa zangu.
Pesa? Yaani amekuja kula kwetu ndio maana akapigwa namna hii.
Mambo yote mwachie Mungu.
Pumbavu wewe. Alokutuma wewe John amshi hapa nani?
Kuanzia leo usijaribu kuniita kwa kesi za kipumbavu pumbavu.
Drinka. Mwenyewe na mikono yangu naweza kwenda kutia hizo nguo katika maji.
Basi zaeni wenu. Mwale mtakavo.
Some kush, like to shut up, you're always on the go.
Tunaweza mchunguza.
Me and you.
For J&J.
Kari boss. Mzuri, unaona umeanza kazi mapema eh?
I have a good feeling about this one eh. Usijaribu kumweka kwa mfuko.
Alafu.
That's all you need to know. No more questions.
We will be fine, my love.
Why did you ask for me? Was he angry with me?
Don't say that.
How can I help?
Not posting anything on social media without asking me.
What? That could have been a nice content.
You're such a lifesaver. Nothing comes for free. My footage, I don't have it.
Don't let him know that I know.
He means well for the company.
You don't need to chase your workers out.
That's none of your business.
Slowly, your spouse is less important. I feel so lonely. I want to cry.
What a big surprise.
My God.
Jenny. Isn't this our one and only Jenny?
If you have time to come, you're all welcome.
Oh, you got the job completely on your own this time.
So right now, let's celebrate your happy marriage in the future and
Charlene's bright future at Pullman. Cheers!
Tafuta elimu hata ikitubidi twende katika nchi ya mbali kwa kutafuta elimu.
Mwenyezi Mungu amekumba wewe. Amekupatia riziki, oxygen, neema, afya, maji, anakuletea mvua. Mwenyezi Mungu amekupatia neema, wa in ta'uddu ni'matallahi la tuhsuha wa ma bikum min ni'matin famin Allah. Chochote katika neema mko nacho ni kutoka kwa Allah. Halafu uende ukaabudie mawe, Mungu atakubali.
Well, to be part of Islam, the heart of a Muslim, united we will always stand.
Swadakta mtazamaji, karibu sana kwenye Kurunzi Mashinani. Matumaini yangu ni kwamba popote pale ulipo umzima. Tukueleze tu baadhi ya taarifa ambazo tumekuandalia. Jina langu ni Nancy Okware na mfasiri kwa upande wa ishara ni Susan Thuku. Na basi tunaanza na taarifa kwamba ni afueni kwa wakazi wa eneo la Lafey, kaunti ya Mandera, ambao sasa